Yeah, so senior year in college, probably winning a national championship my senior year, going out strong, and then preparing for the WNBA draft, hoping to go as the first pick, hope for 5 years.
She called it. What's up, you guys? I'm Rachel DeMita, and welcome to the Courtside Club. Just last night, the Uconn Huskies defeated South Carolina 82-59 to win the national championship. Now, this is the 12th national title under Coach Geno Auriemma. And before we even jump into today's video, I feel like I need to apologize to Uconn because earlier on in this season, I did not have faith in this team. If you guys remember, we've made videos about it. There was so much going on this Uconn team. They were losing games that they shouldn't have been losing with all the talent that they had. Coach Geno Auriemma was crashing out in the media and throwing his players under the bus. I just felt like they weren't getting it together. And this Uconn team was kind of a prime example of peaking at the right moment, because for the past 2 months, they have been absolutely unstoppable. And the big three of Paige Bueckers, Azzi and Sarah Strong has just been incredible. Like, this is the biggest big three, the most talented big three that I can remember in recent history. And these three just coming together, obviously with the role players around them, they have just looked like a well-oiled machine. They breezed through the tournament. I don't know if there was any close game that they had during this tournament, including the national championship game. And I do want to touch on that a little bit, because the Final Four, to me, in terms of just good basketball, was kind of disappointing. And this is no knock to Connecticut, South Carolina, any of these teams. In the Final Four, you want to see close games. You want to see highly competitive games. And we didn't see that. Every game was a blowout, including this one. And even here, them winning by 23 points, they were up 30 at one point. This game was over essentially in the first half. And I noticed as well, I tweeted about it, I felt like Dawn Staley gave up a little bit early on. And whether she did or whether she didn't, the spark and the fire from her, like we normally see her up and down the sideline, like really getting fiery with her players. Like, there was a stretch of time where she was just sitting on the bench and she looked defeated. And I didn't love that even coming from her. Obviously, I don't know what was going on, what she was saying to her players on the bench, if she pushed certain buttons here and there. But anyway, getting back to my original point, my apologies to Uconn. I was not familiar with your game. You guys turned it around. And also Geno as well. Like, I have been on Geno because I didn't like some of the things that he was saying, especially the things that he was saying about Paige Bueckers to the media. He would say stuff like, I don't know, Paige says she wants the ball and then we give her the ball and she doesn't do anything with it, and like things like that. And I'm seeing a player like Paige who already has so much media attention on her and so much pressure on her, and that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Maybe it worked. Maybe him pushing those different buttons with his players worked, because Paige balled out in the tournament. And before this national championship game, she had a 30-point game, a 40-point game, and then another 30-point game. And Paige ended off the game with 17 points in this national championship game, but she also landed third on most points in the NCAA tournament. So she ended with 477 points. Now, Caitlin Clark holds this record at 492 points in 17 games played. And then Shamika Holzclaw, she has 479 points in 22 games played, and Paige scored 477 points in 22 games played. So she's third on that list. She is in great company, and she had a fantastic tournament. And honestly, this was like a fairy tale ending for Paige, and I'm really happy for her, because there has truly been so much media scrutiny on her and so many eyeballs on her and so many narratives spun using Paige Bueckers for all of these different things. And I have been someone who has been outspoken about that, because I feel like a lot of the narratives and a lot of the comparisons to Paige with other players, and specifically with Caitlin Clark, and the different things that mainstream media personalities continued to say about her, I thought it was too much, and I thought it was unwarranted. And I also thought it was just setting her up, and it was unfair to her. We should appreciate Paige for what she's done in this game. She will go down as one of the greatest college basketball players. And I thought she had an incredible second half to her senior season. And I'm also excited to see her in the WNBA. So I'm truly happy for her. And I'm also somebody, and I've told you guys this, when I was a kid, I was a hardcore Tennessee fan. So I hated UConn. And so it's always like so hard for me to root for Uconn. However, there are so many likable players on this team that I felt myself doing that in this national championship game. And also, I'm just happy for Paige. I'm happy to see her end her college career in this way. And now she goes on to the WNBA. I think my light got turned around also. Yeah, my light, ignore that. I'll fix it for the next video. Two other players that I want to talk about who did outstanding in this championship game is Azzi and Sarah Strong. But let's talk about Sarah Strong for a second, because she also set an NCAA tournament record for most points by a freshman in a single tournament with 114 points. That's absolutely incredible. And here was her stat line for the national championship game as a freshman: 24 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. This is insane. Now, she did not win most outstanding player. Azzi won it, and she also had an incredible tournament and an incredible game. She also had 24 points, but this stat line is nothing to scoff at. And also, her being a freshman, being on that biggest stage as a freshman, and being such a pivotal person in this game, and in my personal opinion, the best person on the floor during this game, was pretty insane. So Sarah Strong's ceiling, and I know you've probably heard a lot of people talk about this, her ceiling is high. Like, she's a really exciting player. And one thing that impresses me about her is how composed she is as a freshman. Like, she kind of has that stone cold demeanor about her. She just gets it done. She doesn't do too much, and she doesn't seem rattled in these high pressure situations. So shout out to Sarah Strong. She also had a phenomenal game. And lastly, about this Uconn team, it was so touching at the end of the game, because as Paige was coming out, she gave Geno a big hug. She broke down in tears, and Geno kept it together for the remainder of the game. But then after, he was asked about what they were saying in that exchange, and Geno just said that he loved her, and he broke down in tears after the game. And there is something about Geno that seems to be softening up a little bit. Maybe it is just even started in these past couple months, but there is this softer side of Geno that I'm seeing, and it's getting to me. And I have never been one who's been like a huge Geno fan. And again, I think this goes also back to my days as a kid. I was a huge Pat Summitt fan, and it was kind of like, you're on one side or the other. You can't really root for both. And Geno was somebody I'm like, okay, well, I didn't think that yesterday I'd be almost crying, seeing Geno almost crying, and then the exchange between him and Paige. It was just, it's really sweet. There is a ton of speculation if Geno will be retiring soon, because he has been coaching for over 30 years at this point. And his first championship was won in 1995, which is insane. There's been a lot of speculation if he will retire. Now, he did an interview on the Today Show today, and he basically said, I don't know when that will be. I'm 71 years old, but I still feel like I have a lot of energy, and that decision is definitely not happening tomorrow. Him walking away from the game. I feel like the thing with Geno is, like, every time he thinks he might retire, he gets another superstar, and he's seen that with Sarah Strong, and then Azzi is also coming back for another season at Uconn. So how could he walk away now when he has at least those two players for one more year and then another 3 years? So once again, you guys, congrats to Uconn. Congrats to Paige. I feel like that was the perfect way to end her college career. Now, with that, it couldn't all be rainbows and sunshine, especially in the mainstream media. And this is something that I tweeted about yesterday, because I saw this tweet from Front Office Sports. And I normally, honestly, love Front Office Sports content. I get a lot of good information from them. I think in general, they do a great job. But they tweeted this, and I thought, I don't know, I just didn't like it. Here's what they had to say. They said 4 of the top 5 recruits from the 2020 women's basketball recruiting class have now won national titles: Paige Bueckers, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, and Camilla Cardoso. The last one is Caitlin Clark. Again, we're gonna do another challenge. Celebrate a player without bringing up Caitlin Clark. It just, we already know the narratives around her. A lot of people have a hard time, a lot of people in the media have a hard time calling Caitlin Clark great, or calling her college career great, because she did not win a national championship. Now, yes, it is a cool stat that the top 5 recruits of 2020 did so well in their college careers. However, this is not the time or the place to just, you know what you're doing here. This is just setting it up again for more comparisons to take place, more people to say, see, Caitlin Clark's a fraud. She didn't do anything in college because she didn't win. And it's just like, can we take 24 hours? 24 hours to just celebrate Uconn, celebrate what they did, celebrate Paige, get excited for her going to the WNBA before we get into more arguments like this. Now, ironically enough, on the Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi show, Caitlin Clark did make an appearance on that. It was super cute. I think there's a full clip of it. It's like a 20-minute clip of her guest appearance on that show. It's on YouTube. Go check that out. But it was a really cute conversation. I just loved the dynamic between the three of them. They were making jokes the whole time. Diana Taurasi joked about some of the things that she said about Caitlin. They talked about their technical fouls. There's a ton of things. I'm not going to go over it here, but definitely go check that out if you guys didn't watch it live. But even on the Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird show, they had a graphic that said the best college player without a title, and they put up some of these players: Lisa Leslie, Sylvia Fowles, Neko Ogwumike, Kelsey Plum, Sabrina Ionescu, and Caitlin Clark. And I just feel like this conversation was never had until Caitlin Clark, which also just again shows her impact, because she is the standard, she is the bar. Whenever anything happens, it's like they just go back to Caitlin Clark and start comparing things to her. But again, there are some greats on this list and we've never talked about it until now. We've been able to, and Kelsey Plum and Sabrina Ionescu are two players that stand out to me, and obviously Lisa Leslie, although I did not watch her when she played in college, but most recently Kelsey Plum and Sabrina, I just remember how much of an impact they made in college and how much their names were circulating around and the great college careers that they had. But we never, when they got to the WNBA, never said like, oh, they can't be great because they didn't win a title. It's so bizarre. I don't know if some of these places just don't have anything better to talk about or can't think of something more creative to talk about. But yeah, if you want to talk about the best college player without a title, it's Caitlin. It's Caitlin. If you want to talk about, at this point in time, the best WNBA career of a player without a college title, it's Lisa Leslie, right? Do you see where I'm going? Like, there's so many things we never talk about this in the NBA. I saw a tweet go out actually after Duke lost that heartbreaking loss. I was not okay after that. I couldn't believe that. That's an example of a great Final Four game. Very exciting, very competitive. Like, that's what we want out of the sport. But I really, I needed Duke to win. I was actually so upset about that. But I saw somebody tweet, what does this mean for Cooper Flagg's legacy? And I was this close, but I decided to be mature. This close to tweeting, in terms of women's basketball standards, Cooper Flagg basically doesn't have a legacy and can never be great because he didn't win a championship. It sounds crazy, right? It sounds crazy. Let's just stop doing it, or let's at least wait. Let's wait a week before we start doing it, right? But no, some media outlets couldn't help themselves but start up the conversation. And of course, people took the bait, including myself, and I'm even talking about it here. Yeah, just something that just kind of irks me. And speaking of narratives, before the national championship game, Dawn Staley was actually asked about Paige Bueckers and what her legacy would be, some of the things. I'm just going to let you guys listen to this clip because she actually called out the media as well, but let's react to this.
And she'll be the #1 pick in the WNBA draft, and she'll be an Olympian. She will be all of those things, right? But when you put a narrative out there, everybody sees that, and it puts us at a disadvantage, whether you want to believe so or not. Officials see it. It's all over TikTok. It's all over SportsCenter. It's all over all of that. And she's a great player. But just because you're a great player doesn't mean you need to win a national championship to legitimize it. Paige is legit. She was legit from the moment she stepped, on this stage or prior to in Minnesota. Her career is legendary. She will leave a legacy at Uconn, whether she wins one or not. So I just want to put that out there. I can't not address it. Because it's happening. It happened to us last year. Everything was about Caitlin Clark and her legacy and her ability to win a national championship. Yet we were coming to this thing undefeated, doing something that's unprecedented at the time. Because it's hard. It's hard. And then we find ourselves back here in a similar situation. So, I want the sentiments to be about our players and what our players been able to do equally, because there's room to do both.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it there. I agree with some of the things that Dawn had to say, but I also disagree to a certain extent as well. Some of the narratives this season were forced, and I have been vocal about that. I feel like a lot of us have seen it. I do think that with women's basketball, it is still growing, and the media still has a lot of catching up to do. Brands still have a lot of catching up to do. There still isn't as much discourse around the women's basketball game when it comes to strictly basketball than I feel like there should be. It is a lot of just the extracurricular things surrounding women's basketball, the dramatic storylines. And so she has a point there. But I will say, when it comes to superstars, standout stars, people that really grab your attention, there are certain players who are just going to have that effect. Caitlin Clark is one who had that at an astronomical level, and I don't think any of us can deny that. It was what it was. There was something about Caitlin Clark's game. There is something about Caitlin Clark's game that attracts so many people along with casual fans. Her playing style, the way that she shoots, all the records that she was breaking, she was the story last year. And yes, there was also a storyline that had to do with South Carolina being undefeated, and I feel like that was also covered in the media, but it didn't get amplified as much because it just doesn't hit that casual audience. And that's nothing against the South Carolina program or system, because they've been fantastic. So I get what she's saying, because there should be equal media coverage for teams that are performing really well, but there are also just like the storylines write themselves, and it's up to the media to cover those storylines as they go, not to push narratives. And so I agree with her in that sense, but I also, there's something to say here. The storyline of Paige winning a national championship and then going straight into the draft, when we've been following Paige Bueckers since high school, that is a great storyline. That's what a lot of people, especially casual fans, want to hear about. Yes, there is also room to cover South Carolina, but I guarantee if you put up 2 videos on ESPN or 2 segments, the one that's going to get the most attraction, the most people talking on TikTok again, is going to be about Paige. But I do agree with her. I think the media in general, and hopefully as time goes on and the game continues to grow, we'll be able to cover the sport of basketball as it is and cover different players, showcase different players. That's even what I tried to do during our Courtside Madness series, is showcase some players that I think deserve more media spotlight and didn't get that media spotlight. And we did actually reach out to Dawn to try to get her on Courtside Club, but she said no. So maybe next year. Dawn, if you're watching this, you're always welcome. I would love to chat with you. That's pretty much it, you guys. Around the corner is the WNBA draft, and I think we will all be excited to see Paige go #1, and then we will see how the rest of the cards fall. Make sure that you guys subscribe, though, because tomorrow we will be releasing our exclusive pre-draft interview with Dominique Malonga. It's a really good one. I'm really excited about it. Make sure that you guys subscribe and click that little notification bell so you don't miss that. And if you enjoyed this video, then make sure that you give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Ooh, and